Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to see you here. This is actually our first workshop of the semester. My name is Andy Burns. I am the director of the Care Center, which will be newly named the Center for Teaching and Learning. Um, this is our first book chat. To tell you how these professional developments work, we really rely on information from the advisory board, the master faculty, and the faculty senate. They gave us directions of different things that they would like us to put on for professional development. And after plenary week, what we do is we survey what are the top workshops that faculty have either engaged in or asked questions on, and this happens to be one. So this season, we're working on 7-week courses with mindset. This one will begin the mindset portion. We will also have a faculty workshop that will be led by Anna Harrington on a flip modality for 7-week courses. And then we will have a hybrid course design from April Kidd. But today we are here to hear the illustrious William Visher on his book chat, The Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. So with that, Mr. Visher.
All right. Hello, all. It's uh, by my clock 12:29, but we'll go ahead and get started nonetheless. Very excited to be a part of this. Very excited to be doing this. Um, it's a really good book. It's a really good subject and a really good topic. I have read some of Carol Dweck's um, material prior to this. So am I is that me? Okay. Anyway, so this is Mindset Session 1 of 3, the new psychology of success. So we will go through this. Is it am I reverbing?
I don't think
Okay.
so. I don't know who that is.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on. I've made some notes um, just to keep me on track because I want to be very respectful of your time. So, welcome. If we were not meeting virtually, I would have everyone sort of introduce themselves, tell their names, maybe what college they're in, what division they're in. So, if you'd like to do that, if you'd like to put it into the chat, that would be great. Because I kind of like to know the spectrum of the folks that we're dealing with, and this is being recorded, which I'm sure you know. So let's talk a little bit about Carol Dweck. This is from her Stanford profile, just to kind of let you know what her ethos is. And she says about herself, my work bridges developmental psychology, social psychology, and personality psychology, and examines the self-conceptions people use to structure the self and guide their behavior. Her research looks at the origins of these self-conceptions, their role in motivation and self-regulation, and their impact on achievement and interpersonal processes. So if you're not familiar with her or what she does, that's who she is in a nutshell. And I just at the bottom put a little brief nugget of what a mindset is that we can keep in the forefront of our minds over the next few weeks. A mindset is basically just a mental attitude or inclination or a particular way of thinking. So uh, here's a schedule. This is mainly to keep me on track. I've already done the intro. I'm going to do a brief overview of the entire reading, and then we're going to take 10 to 15 minutes in each of the 3 chapters. At the end, we'll have a reflection, discussion, and an activity or a wrap up, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing next time. If we are in a particular chapter, don't feel constrained, if we are going over the 10 minutes or over the 15 minutes, or even if we don't make it through all of this, I just kind of wanted to make a schedule to, again, to keep me on track and just to kind of keep the section moving. You math people that are out there, any math people? if you're a math person, I know that you've already done the addition and it adds up to more than 60 minutes. And I realize that. So don't send me an email. Okay. Assigned reading overview and summary. Chapters 1 through 3 basically are an introduction to the mindsets, the underlying science of the mindsets, and their influence on learning and performance. And if you've read the first 3 chapters or any of them, it gives a lot of examples and anecdotes. What I would like to begin with to sort of guide us as we go through these, in the introduction on page X, Dweck says that a whole organization can have a mindset. And if that is true, what is Chattanooga State's mindset? And by extension, what is the mindset of the division or department where you currently serve? Not necessarily looking for an answer right now for that. It's something I would like for us to keep in mind, something that I would like for us to kind of think about. So again, that's what I would like for us to look at as we move through the chapters. All right, chapter 1, the mindsets. And I would just like for us to kind of chime in, and you can either raise your hand. We might can just start out with just unmuting and jumping in there. But chapter 1, the mindsets. What are your findings and takeaways? And I just put a brief what the subsections say, just to kind of prompt you. Why do people differ? What does all this mean for you? And it talks about the 2 mindsets. A view from the 2 mindsets, and they gave 2 vignettes. So what's new, and then self-insights and what's in store. So in chapter 1, what were your findings and takeaways that you would like to address?
Well, I struggle a little bit with the way she uses the word intelligence. She doesn't define intelligence in the book. And I understand what skills and abilities are, but when she asks the question, can you when she asks the questions like, can you dramatically increase your intelligence? Like, I'm not quite exactly sure what that means, which I think is probably gets to probably where I'm fixed in my mindset, because the whole time growing up, it was thought that intelligence was this fixed thing, and so it's a weird way for me to think of intelligence. But then I was like, oh, well, that's the problem. Like, I'm
Okay.
thinking about it wrong.
Yeah, and that's might be why I have Alfred Benet
Yeah.
listed here, because that's when she started talking about it. Do you
Yeah.
have a page number that you're looking at, Kim?
No, it was early on when she was asking these questions, like these were test questions, like, do you think you can dramatically, oh, page 12 and 13.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yes.
So, okay, so when I think about this, I always think of myself in math, right? Math. So I have gotten better at what I would say arithmetic over the years. Like, I can do things in my head and, basic like life skill type stuff. But I will never be good at college level math. And no matter how much time I spend doing that, I will not be good at it. And I know this because I've tried and tried. As an adult, I've tried. And it's just not. So no matter, I can get better at it, but I will never get good at it.
So
And
is that
so
is that fixed or
I don't know. I mean, it
semi-growth?
probably is fixed, but at some point, there's just no reason for me to keep going because the payoff isn't worth it. It's like a return on investment kind of thing.
And you don't need to, right?
No, I don't need to. No.
And I think she addresses this later on. I think she addresses this very thing that you're talking about later on in the text when she says, no, you're not going to you know, you're not going to be a rocket scientist.
Right.
You know that you have to find your lane and stay within it. Right.
Yeah, but when I look at these questions, I'm like, all right, so if I say my math intelligence is something very basic about me that I can't change very much. Like if I substitute the word intelligence for, I can get better, but I could devote my life to it and not be very good at it. And so part of me is like, yeah, that isn't gonna change.
Would you overall say that your mindset generally is fixed or
No,
growth?
and it depends on what it is,
Okay.
I would say.
All
You
right.
know what, Kim?
Hmm.
I don't believe that about you. I think if you all of a sudden had a crazy passion or you had a reason that you felt passionate about to become better, more conversational about math,
Yeah.
I think you could. But I don't think at this point it's that important to you. But I think you could.
Well, I mean, I have tried and tried and tried, and I kept thinking as I got older, it would get easier because I would view learning differently and all that stuff, and it just didn't. But what is weird is I can do basic arithmetic, stuff in my head much faster than my kids who have all taken differential equations. It's the weirdest thing in the world. It's like they can't do mental math, but they can do calculus. And I don't even, so it's just weird. So I have my niche. I'm good with it.
Okay.
It's just the wording, I think. It's just the wording of the way she puts stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Some things yes, some things no. I don't know. That's it. That's my
Okay.
contribution. My contribution is
Anybody else from section 1?
I'd kind of like to chime in on this because I was kind of bothered by her definition of intelligence as well. I played chess, and years ago I played chess at like the 800 level. I now have a 1200 rating on chess.com, and I played my first 2000 level game last week. So I'm definitely getting better. It's a slow process, but I'm reminded that the intelligence quotient is a level of thinking ability over, to speak of math, over with a denominator, which is your chronological age. And so there's an expectation, even in the definition of IQ intelligence, that you're going to get smarter or more capable as you get older. So I think this whole book is kind of stiff, honestly. I feel like there are only two mindsets. Well, I'm just thinking either or fallacy. There are all kinds of mindsets. I have many mindsets all day long, every day. So I'm kind of, those are my two big takeaways. I guess it's already said something about me that they're both things that bothered me. But
Well, and to address that or piggyback off of that, Brian, in the self-insight section, she does reference Howard Gardner, who, if you're familiar with him, you know that he's the guru of multiple intelligences,
here
right?
we go.
And then, of course, he that's down here, and he wrote a book, Exceptional Minds. So you may align more with what Howard Gardner has written or said, and it might be like Kim said, a vocabulary thing too. And she
Yeah.
talks a lot. She does seem to bring up a lot of dichotomies, like is it nature or nurture, fixed or growth. And over the years, I've come to believe that it's nature and nurture. It's not an either or. It's not a zero sum game. So that I agree with that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Howard Gardner and his work, Brian?
A little bit, yes. I've heard the name and I know about multiple intelligences, and you're right. I am very much aligned with his idea of multiple intelligences. I believe that they're people are their intelligence about various things. Some people more intelligent about certain things than others. And
Angie, I see that hand.
Okay, did I figure out how to unmute myself?
You are unmuted.
Thank you. So I love this book. I've read it once before and I love reading it again. I like how simple her words are, in terms of it's not like big word gibberish that I have to look up all the definitions of when I'm reading it. But I also love how she looks at it from like a child's point of view and how she learned from children. Because I swear, like in my geography class, I use children's books for two of their projects, because children's books are so much deeper than adult books. A lot of times you can get the point across better. They do better jobs of describing it, and it's just great. So when she talks about how the kids weren't discouraged by failure, they thought they were learning, not failing. I like that. I want to embrace that. I'm learning, I'm not failing, and hold on to that. Chapter 1's my favorite chapter, but it gets
Yep.
better.
And that's on page 5. I think I noted that as well. And I might have to start bringing children's books into my class curriculum.
Oh, they're so good. So
They
good.
are.
It just makes it better. Right now we're using migration books, like stories of kids who have had to migrate to new countries and everything, and their tales. And it's so much more meaningful, but also it just raises that empathy capacity to a new level, and also just that tangible information.
I constantly reference Charlotte's Web in my classes. I ask them if they've ever read it because there's a lot of really good. It's just one of my favorite books to have read when I was teaching that age. So somebody, if there's nothing else out of that chapter on page 12, and I have that highlighted because this is a before class or at home activity. There's a grow your mindset activity that allows you to evaluate yourself. So we will move, if there's nothing else from chapter, and we can always come back if somebody finds something that they've highlighted. We're going to move to chapter 2, inside the mindset, and look at your takeaways. There's an intro section that says mindsets are just beliefs, they can be changed. Is success about learning or proving you're smart? And there are several subsections under there. Mindsets change the meaning of failure. Failure doesn't define you, which I think we need to really hammer home, particularly for our population or any of our students. And I say what about college students because they bring out some pointed things about college students in that section. Mindsets change the meaning of effort, either or, and I have a question mark behind that. And then they have questions and answers. So chapter 2, findings and takeaways. Tracy?
Well, reading this, I realized why I left my first husband.
You got a reason, right?
Yeah, we had all this, soul searching and all this going to, someone to talk about it. And it's like, oh, he was, I'm the growth mindset person. He's not in so many ways. And I was like going, oh my gosh, I almost want to talk to him about it.
Yeah. I was going to ask if people in this group, if you have a fixed mindset person in your life and a growth mindset person in your life. Because just once you have this framework, it really helps to see, it helps you to kind of identify that in others. And so I remember my father was a really, really smart man, and he loved the piano. And he played the piano every day my entire life. And one day he just quit. And I said, why? He said, well, I'm never going to be that good. And I said, but you love it. So what difference does it make? He said, well, it always really depressed me that I had this cousin who was very good at piano, and she was so good that she got a full ride to college, on a music scholarship. And she played for the 4 years she was in college. And then once she graduated, she never played again because she didn't like it. She was just really good at it. And he had this real passion for it, but he didn't think he was as good as she was. And it bothered him so much that he couldn't take joy in it anymore because the failure, what he perceived as his constant failures to master a particular piece, ruined his joy, ruined his passion, which made me really sad. But I didn't have the framework to explain to him how he was sabotaging himself, and I wish I had, I wish I had understood what was going on at the time, because I might have been able to help him regain his passion for the piano. And then on the other side is when I started reading about growth mindset years ago, I have 4 children, and the second son is ridiculously growth mindset. He's so growth mindset that he's like an inspiration. He's a walking, breathing example of growth mindset in everything that he does. And he's a very good rock climber, so much so that he's like internationally ranked and all that stuff. And he just recently, within the last year or so, started swimming as a way to get into shape and to overcome some injuries. And everyone around him is telling him that climbers don't swim, that is just not something that you do. And he is like, no, I'm swimming. This is really good for me. And then when he started swimming, so this is a guy who went from being one of the best in his sport. And he told me the other day, he goes, there are little old ladies passing me in the pool. He's like, they are just blowing by me like I'm not even moving. And he said, it's so funny. He said, but instead of being discouraged by this, he's so impressed by them. He's just so impressed. He's like, man, this is amazing. I'm 29 years old. I'm pretty fit. And these are like literal ladies just cruising through the water, like they're dolphins or something. And he's like, it's awesome, And so he doesn't, he sees that as an area he can improve, and he's ready to embrace the challenge, as opposed to being discouraged by the fact that he's being dusted by little old ladies in the pool. Anyway, he's been that way for forever, and that's why he's so good at everything he does. And this is a kid who in first grade, second grade, third grade, they were like, maybe we're going to hold him back because he's not reading super well. And he was with a reading specialist and stuff. He graduated in the top 10% in a class of 700,
Wow.
because of his work ethic and his mindset. And this is a kid, we would start practicing his vocabulary words on Friday, and he would take the test the following Friday, and by Monday he couldn't spell those words again. And he ended up, he's just not good at that. But he has a master's degree in computer science and has a big boy job and is making, I don't know, 3 times what I'm making. So who cares if he can spell?
Right. They have spell check, right? Tracy?
I want to ask the group, because I teach college success, and I'm trying to communicate to the students in all the ways that I can about growth mindset. And I might borrow Angie's book and see if I can find a children's book about growth mindset that I can share in college success. But for the group, do you have a hard or easy time or a trick about really a good example of growth mindset that you talk to about your students or your children or someone in your life or something like that? Because I feel that I'm also talking to the students to kind of figure out if they have a growth mindset or not. Are they old enough yet to know that the difference to, give me an example? So I'm just kind of wondering what you guys find in the classroom. And yes, Tab, I agree with you. I love that growth mindset activity in college success.
Tab. And then Kelly.
When Tracy was talking about that, for the college success class, we use for social and behavior a video. And it's the power of yet, and it's a Sesame Street video, and the students love it because you can relate. It's about choosing your words. You might not be able to do something at this moment. You can't do it yet, but with practice, you're able to do it. So it's the part of transforming our mind instead of just not saying, you can't do this. Because who would have thought none of us were, 40, well, some people might not be that old, but 30, 40 years ago, didn't think that you were going to be an instructor or thought that you would have this impact on other people's lives because of the mindset. So now, as that instructor, as a person working in higher ed, we have the mindset to transform lives and to pull out the best in other people, even by you, William, creating this book study, because it's giving you a different point of view, being able to see things and step outside of that comfort zone. With Kim's son learning how to swim, he didn't know how to do it yet, but through practice and through the mindset, you're able to make those changes. So I just love it.
And Kelly, and can you put the title of that video in the chat tab?
I'm gonna drop it.
Okay, thanks. Kelly. Kelly.
Okay, sorry, I was turning that off.
Okay.
The microphone. So in my college success class, I found this from Kendra. If you guys know Kendraville, she kind of initiated this, and it has worked well in the class for growth mindset, and that is to have them pick a TV show or a movie or something that they like with the characters, and they do it in groups. So they get in the groups together and they talk about the different characters and which one they feel has a growth mindset, which one has a fixed mindset, how do they relate with the characters. So it gets them to talking with each other, be thinking about it instead of just, me talking about it. Or the Sesame Street video is not my favorite, but we all get to like different things. So it really gets them to talking, and then they have to go around and, somebody or both people, if it's just two in a group, get to say what they thought about each character. So I don't know if that helps you, Tracy, but that was just a different way. And again, that was not my idea. That came from Kendra, and I really embraced it, because it was neat to see them do that, to be able to, the more I can get them to tell me about what I'm trying to tell them, it seems like the better they're getting it. So that's just one thing we do in the class.
Thank you, Kelly. I wrote that down and I really like that. I think the thing is going to be maybe having to divide them up into, different shows they watch or don't watch. But we might make it an assignment maybe to watch an episode or load, 15 minutes of an episode and then talk about fixed and growth mindset. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then, I didn't get it down into a lot of rules on it. Like, one time, I had Kendra come to the class so I could see how she was doing it the first time. And she was using a supernatural episode that she liked, and it was only just like, 30 seconds and then 30 seconds. It wasn't watching something for 15 minutes. It was really quick. And then she gave what she thought, just a quick little example. And then they could follow that. And they didn't watch it in class. Now, if they wanted to pull it up on their phone, and when I've done it twice, nobody's watched it, watched their own while they're talking. They just talk about it together. And then as they're sharing it, generally they're spot on, but I am there to help facilitate it if they get sideways or they're missing the point, or be like, oh yeah, it's all that. And this is another example of, I can't think of it right now, but how such and such grew or utilized the growth mindset.
Awesome. Thank you for that link, Kim. Kim, did you
Yeah.
put both of those in there?
No, I did not. I just
You
I put the peak learning
Peak
thing and then I
learning.
explained it. So at my previous institution, we brought in Paul Stoltz and we did this year-long or more study on our students. And we administered this thing called the grit gauge. And then the students were able to measure their grit gauge, which was growth mindset, resilience, instinct, and tenacity. And then we were all, as faculty, we were all asked to implement gritty, growth mindset-y type assignments in our courses. And then we measured the grit gauge at the end of the semester, each semester, to see if their grit had grown. And we spent a lot of time talking to the students about it. So it was a whole thing, like a college-wide initiative to sort of see if we could foster this kind of, this idea that you have control over this. This is an internal locus of control thing. You can shape your own beliefs, and you can shape your behavior based on those beliefs. Because really, it's the behavior. The beliefs guide the behavior, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. So then the president wrote a book, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I was interested, and I underline this, to find out that students with fixed mindset had higher levels of depression.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody saw that or noted that, but I thought that was really interesting and gave me some additional food for thought. Anything else out of this section, chapter 2? There's another on page 53, another grow your mindset activity. And there's lots of things coming up in the chat as well. And Keely, do we have access to the chat, or just something that they need to kind of look at and link up with as we're doing this?
I believe that there is access to the chat. Chad, can you confirm that? I believe that it just comes up.
So if the chat's not showing up for anybody, you can click at the top. It's beside people, between pop out and people. You can click chat to view the chat. But we are recording it, so it will be available after.
Okay, great. Tracy.
So just on that, I have noticed before in my classes, if you are not logged in with your chat state ID, that you do not see the chat, you don't see responses, that sort of stuff.
Okay, because there is some really interesting things coming up, links, and I will make a concerted effort to remember to send this out to everybody that's out there. Okay, can we move to chapter 3? And again, we can come back to 1 and 2, or any, So this is the truth about ability and accomplishment. Mindset and school achievement. Is artistic ability a gift? The danger of praise and positive labels. And I have CF, Alfie Kohn, because there's a book that I read a long time ago. Is anybody familiar with the work of Alfie Kohn? He's an American author and lecturer in the areas of education, parenting, and behavior. And he wrote a book called Punished by Rewards. And I brought this up because of something she said in chapter 3. And negative labels and how they work, and then another grow your mindset activity. So I'll throw this out to the group for findings and takeaways. And I'd like to also ask for other teachers, if you find that your students have just a negative view of themselves or their learning, or do they verbalize, I just can't do this? So if anybody would like to jump in on that, that would be fantastic.
Well, I mean, I have a student who today told me that she's, not going to do the research paper because I didn't think her rough draft was perfect.
Okay.
Okay, then.
All right. So she's basically afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And have we as a society, or we as a college, or do they just internalize that they aren't a failure, but that they have failed, which is a little bit of a difference, of course.
She's
Being
just
failing
done.
is not the same as being a failure. I see Tracy's hand. Tracy.
Sorry about that. Kind of going back to almost what Kim was saying, and then also this chapter in the book. And, you know, I don't, I love that we talk about growth mindset and college success, which is especially for our high schoolers transitioning into college. And I think, though, it takes a while sometimes for our students to realize I was one of them. High school was so easy. I didn't have to study much. I could just do it. And then I got to college, and then I got to my first chemistry class. I went, oh, I need to work on this. I need to, I need to really understand how these formulas work and how to calculate them and how. And I didn't. And it took me till my sophomore year to really learn how to study and how to in physics, how to work on my physics programs over and over and over until I could figure out how to do the calculations and the why they worked, and not just I got the right answer, I can quit working. And I think that for our students here at Chat State, that I don't know how much of they, when they first get introduced, that some of those that have had it and they didn't go to 4 year school, that had it easy maybe in high school, kind of get too far in before they learn that maybe they have the growth mindset, but they haven't ever had to use it. And there's so many things about that fixed mindset, about praise. You don't have to work hard.
Hmm.
I think the only thing that saved me was my sense of competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I finally learned that I could do things, that I wasn't going to give up, because I just don't do that. So I'm trying to, try to put this in a way that we can think about our students and how we have those activities that can help them have some confidence that it's okay to fail. Like you said, Kim, well, I didn't get graded great on that, so I'm not even. Oh, come on, really? What can we do to, I hate to say, what can we do to help our students? What barrier is there that we can remove? Uh, because we don't want them to give up, but we do have to adult them a little bit, or hope they grow get more adulting somehow.
Right. They don't typically go through productive struggle. It does become if I've said it once this semester, I've said it 100 times. You don't know this. That's why you're here. I mean, they get really down on themselves because they forgot, a comma, or they forgot their topic sentence. I said that's why you're in school, you know. Um, so yes, I agree with that. Anyone else? Someone
Then I,
else?
then I get these awesome students who just say things like, no one, thank you for that C, because I got A's all through high school and no one really told me how to improve. But you gave me a C, and then you told me how to redo it and how to fix it and how to get the A, and I did that, and now I know more than I did before.
Right.
So thanks. And I'm like, let's clone you, girly or guy. Can we clone that person? Because we
Yeah,
need more
and
of
I may
those.
be a bit of a stickler, but when students say, "Why did you give me?" I'll
Yeah,
say, "No,
you
you
earned.
earned a C or an A, by the quality of the work that you did." And I like Brene Brown too, Laura Keeley, who just put up a really neat quote and a YouTube video on that. So, any other teachers out there have students that struggle with that they would like to share an incidents of? Okay. Let's move to the last. This will generate a reflection, discussion questions, and an activity and wrap up. And you can jump in and answer any one of these. How do you see these mindsets impacting student success here at Chat State? How do you see these mindsets impacting your life? Because this isn't just for others, this is for us as well. What in these readings resonated with your own experience or experiences? And we did just found out that somebody left a husband because of them. Share a time, share a time when you embraced a growth mindset or struggled with a fixed mindset and what was the outcome. And then for just an activity between now and then, which would be next week or the following week, jot down and reflect on an area in your professional, academic, and personal life where a growth mindset could help you improve or overcome a challenge. And of course, we want to at the outset, we talked about um, Chat State having a mindset, sort of a group mindset, and we talked about divisions and departments having a mindset. But they and we all interact. How do we contribute to or take away from a growth or a fixed mindset within our spheres of influence? Bueller, what can we do to help impact student success? Because we've all said, go ahead, Tabitha.
I was just typing in the chat box in order to change or make that growth mindset. We really have to be willing to learn and wanting to know more instead of being stuck with that fixed mindset where this is how it's always been done or whatever. We have to be innovative because if you think about it, we have a lot of people that are planted that have longevity here, but their fear for growth mindset, and I'm just making a statement. I don't know if it's true or not, but most people have that mindset stating where, this is how it's always been done. Whereas you might still use a chalkboard and use chalk instead of using the expo marker or using a paper handout instead of using PowerPoint because you don't want to grow and use the computer because we're switching to technology. So we have to be willing to identify what we're lacking in order to move to that growth mindset, to be the light to show other people it's okay not to be afraid to learn and change. Growth is a good thing, but it's about how you view it as well.
Agreed. Offering opportunities. I'm going to read what's in the chat. What 7-week classes? So do we need a growth mindset around those and curricular changes in English? Ms. Carter. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Visher. I would say that there has been a lot of resistance, to some of the changes, and there have been a lot of good points made about, the issues, the obstacles, the difficulties, what is gained, what is lost, all that stuff. That's great. But ultimately, we kind of have to figure out how to do it as best we can. We have to, we don't have a whole lot of choice about that. And then some curricular changes in English, like we're eliminating the teaching of fiction in English 1020 and moving the argument paper to that class. And so the curriculum is changing and the sequencing in 1010 and 1020 is changing. And some people might not be super happy with that because it's very different from what has always been done. So that's kind of what I like about this job, though, is that I don't have to do anything the same way twice.
Yeah.
Because there are so many ways to teach well that I can. I mean, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Michelle.
Hey, hi everyone. I wanted to share with you one of the things we can do for our students is to share our own personal experiences with them. I think my just for an example, my granddaughter, she was struggling with the understanding of being able to, fail and that being a good thing. So I told her my own experience. I had been teaching elementary education for years and years. And then I went back for my master's and I wrote my first paper and I got an F. And I mean, I'm just going to say, I thought at first my whole mindset was, okay, I'm failed. This isn't for me. I can't do this. I'm just going to go back. But then my growth mindset kicked in and said, I'm going to seek out help. What did I do wrong? And so I asked for help. I asked a friend of mine and she critiqued my paper and it wasn't even that bad. It was just, there were things that I needed to do to fix it. And my next paper, I received an A. So I've told this story to my own students. I told it to my granddaughter. And I think sharing our own experiences, because they see it, they may not see us as someone that experienced failures. They may just see us as someone that's successful. And so I think sharing those helps. That's it.
Yes, I agree. There was a good suggestion put in the chat. Julie says, offering opportunities, for those of you who cannot see the chat, offering opportunities for revisions and second chance assignments is part of how we can help students flex those growth muscles. Super high stakes one and done assessments early in the term seem to contradict an emphasis on trying again. And I do agree with that. And I know in learning support, which is what I teach primarily, they get an opportunity to, redo this and let's try this again. And even if they don't read or look at their feedback, I always pull them back and say, hey, let's take a look at this. And they always appreciate that. Tracy, you have two hands up.
Oh, wow. How did I do that? I'm overachieving. No, so I have to give credit to Bill Taylor for this. I don't do it anywhere as well as he does, but I've learned it really does help the students gain a little bit of trust in my classroom. So we look at the syllabus, we look at, where are all the points going to go on the grade you earn? Yes, I talked about that. You earned the grade. And, what would you really want to, how do you want me to assess you? Okay, this is what it says it's going to do, but you know what? I could do anything within reason. So how do you want to assess? And it usually comes up to something simple like, can we take our test twice? Sure. Okay, that's fine with me. Except you've got to really take the test the first and the second time. I can tell if you're just going through, and they've all really done that. No one's ever gone through and I can see they've scrolled through the test and not even answered a question. And sometimes I see students don't even take it the second time. But just that one thing, asking their opinion on how to be assessed, or do you want me to count cahoots as a grade, or just hey, you participated and it counts towards attendance? And giving them back the power to do that, I gain so much from them.
That's good stuff. That's awesome.
It's all because of Bill. Yeah, a secret super softy.
You saw that, huh? I wasn't gonna read that, but yes, sometimes my bark is much worse than my bite. They get a lot of opportunity, and I tell them, I'm here to make you successful. I'm not here to make you fail or to help you to fail. I'm here to make you a successful person. Because they actually got to redo a midterm. I gave a midterm grade and I gave it back to them and said, okay, now go do this with your computer. And they all looked at me like I was like, what, really? I go, yeah, go do it. Now look up the answers on the computer and turn it back in. And they all did much better and they appreciated that. So yeah, growth mindset is a good it's a good thing to incorporate into your classes, into your curriculum, and into your own life. It's just about being positive and looking at the positive end of it. So, anyone else before we wrap? And we don't obviously I'm not gonna keep you till 1:30 just for laughs. Okay, that's let's see what I have here. Next meeting, next Monday, February 17th. We'll be looking at just chapters 4 and 5. I did find these, and I know someone alluded to this earlier, a very easy read, a very quick read. Keely posted an Audible. Anybody that has Audible, you can listen to it as well. They have 40% off this weekend if you want to get it and listen to it. But other than that, I'm actually done. It's 1:18. We don't need to stay, but thank you all for being here. Tracy.
I'm not trying to keep folks, but I'd like to, maybe not this time, but maybe we can open next time about what kind of mindset does our college have? Division, department? So
So you want to address the questions that were posed at the beginning? Okay. And what I will probably do is just add on to this PowerPoint. So we may do a bit of a review in case somebody wants to go back and revisit something that maybe we didn't discuss in the first section. But I would like to do that just by way of review. And we can do that. I think that would be a super helpful exercise.
Is the meeting at 12:30 on next Monday or 1:30? Because I had it at 1:30 in my calendar for some reason.
They are all from
At
12:30 to
okay.
1:30.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's all I have. If you don't have anything else, thank you for coming and go forth and grow.
Thank you,
Thanks,
William.
William.
Thank y'all.
Mm.